Hi there, my name is Michelle. I am the author of the blog Hearthside. I'm currently working on creating accessible copies of all my blog entries in the form of videos on YouTube, which I'm also embedding in my blogs, and there's links back and forth if you found me on YouTube first. All of these are based on blog entries first, so that's why there's no fancy effects or anything. It's just me sort of picking the important points from these entries, sometimes reading them word for word if for some reason I think that's more valuable. If I'm not looking at the screen all the time, it's because I'm looking at my entry on the screen just to make sure I'm not missing anything vital. But quite often the wording will be different from what the entry actually says, at least in parts, or usually large chunks of it, unless for some reason it was like very poetic or something. Today I'm looking on my entry about Skaði, and I see the irony in that. I'm trying to get through the last year worth of blog entries so that I'm caught up with where I'm actually writing entries now. So I'm into the stuff from December and January, and here I am, and it's the middle of a heat wave. So trying to get into that mindset that I feel in the winter may be a bit of a challenge, but Skaði is definitely one of my favorite goddess figures, and one that I think really embodies the spirit of the Canadian prairies. So my practice with Skaði is extensive in the winter time. The line that I opened with here I'm going to read to you because I feel that it definitely embodies that feeling of the winter here. Whenever the icy winds roar across the prairies and the temperatures drop, I find myself thinking of Skaði. I imagine her standing out in some field among snowdrifts with snowflakes caught in her hair, laughing as the wind shrieks around her. So Skaði is a very tough Nordic goddess. If you think about different goddesses in the lore, a lot of them are really strong characters, at least the ones that we have any sort of record on that survived, which sadly isn't very much. But Skaði in particular is an extra strong and tough figure. Perhaps it's her Jotun blood, or it might be the fierceness with which she loves being out on the land. I personally spend a lot of time out on the land, even in the winter, adapting to the temperatures of the very freezing cold weather that we get here in January and February. So I know very well that the weather will change and how to be prepared for that. And I feel that Skaði embodies these things as well. Many people I know complain about going outside this time of year, but there is this certain sense of satisfaction in the victory over the elements, in surviving all the winter's harshness, and not just enjoying its sweetness through the window. The frigid temperatures remind us that it's a gift to be alive every single day and that we should make the most of it. And this is something that we see echoed in the Havamal about enjoying living while you can, basically. So Skaði is victorious over the elements. She thrives in them, and so she faces them with the same fierceness that the winter faces her. When you see her, she has all that power of the frozen mountains that she brings with her to the Aesir. The Aesir see her determination after the death of her father, and they move towards appeasing her. And if we look historically at where guilds, if a kin member is killed, then to prevent a feud, then the tribe that was responsible for the death will try to pay a price, usually in gold. But the Aesir are offering Skathi a bit more than just gold. They offer her a husband, and so by extension they're welcoming her into their own tribe. And this, in the lore, elevates Skathi from Jotun to the status of goddess within the Aesir. Even when she and Njord part ways, then she's still counted as one of the Aesir, which is the goddesses of the Aesir. So there is this interesting parallel that I find throughout the stories where Jotun women are not considered to be Aesir, but then they marry in and they become Aesir, whereas Jotun men are left as outsiders. And I noticed this in my previous post about Gerther and mentioned it as well. The other interesting thing is that Jotun women can marry of the Vanir tribe and they are still considered goddesses. So it seems that the Aesir and Vanir are considered worshipful, but the Jotun perhaps not. But the bonds of marriage allow women to become parts of these tribes. It seems a common sentiment, perhaps, among the elder heathens, that a woman who marries in becomes part of that tribe. And this could be reflected in the lore in this way. A woman was expected to leave her childhood home and make a new home with her husband. So in that sense, Skathi and also Gerther have this tendency as well. I can also think, in the case of Njord, that this might be true as well, because she is seen as a consort of Odin, even if not usually given the term wife. But most would consider Njord to be worshipful. Another example is Rinder, whose story is a little bit more complicated and we don't seem to have enough information, but quite possibly we would consider her worshipful as well. I eventually want to make a post specifically on Rinder because I think that one needs to be torn apart a little bit and looked at more deeply, but I just haven't had the time for that yet. It also seems that the lore kind of sometimes blurs the lines between tribes a little bit. So, for example, Freya and Freyr, are they Vanir or are they Aesir? Is Bragi a god or is he a man? And Freyr, on the top of being Aesir and Vanir, he could be Alfar, perhaps the Lord of the Alfar, at least it seems. So what exactly each of these terms means is unclear, and maybe they did have clearer meanings historically, but at some point began to blend together as understanding was lost. Or perhaps it was always that ambiguous, and we're just trying to put labels on things to categorize them where labels don't fully fit. I don't know if any of that really matters, of course. The lore is old stories that's passed down through many, many mouths before it was even written down. And each time that the story is told, then the skald or the writer brings something different to it with their own biases, or their own meaning that they're trying to put out there for this particular audience that they're telling the story for. So of course meanings are going to shift, and especially over time as the context of that time period change understanding. And over time, the natures of gods within the stories are also going to change a little bit, because we can only understand clearly from where we are right now. So Skaði is associated with winter hunting, skiing, the wild lands of the mountains. She's fiercely independent and seems to be this incredible force of will. Anyone who's been in the prairies in January understands like the sheer force of winter, and you can just really see Skathi being there in that moment and enjoying every single part of it. It's sometimes okay for us as women to be tempests. It's sometimes important that we speak our mind and make sure that we're heard. Our words matter, and our words, they carry weight. Skathi teaches us how to empower ourselves, and she teaches us that we can overcome our obstacles if we put our minds to it. And sometimes when the wind is howling all around you, chilling you right to the bone, you just need to laugh too. If you think of the story of Skathi and that she asks the gods have to make her laugh. You need to laugh, just throw back your head, laugh at the absurdity of it all, and then you can press on. So that is all for this one. I think this is the last one I'm going to do this morning at least. My work schedule is a bit in flux right now, so I'm trying to get as many of these videos out as I can to catch up to where I am currently with the blog. But I do still have to work as well. So have a great day. Talk to you next time.